G'day guys and welcome to week 5 sub 3 hour marathon update. This week I'll just give you a quick recap on the runs that I did, but I actually want to talk just really briefly about the biggest lesson I had this week, a big learning that sort of come out of this week. So really interesting. But week 5 of the experiment is done. Quick recap, this week ran a total of just pretty much 7 hours and 20 minutes, which was a pretty good week. Had the Monday off, and as you possibly would have seen, did the MAF test, second MAF test on the Tuesday, which was great. All the results are there online, but basically quick, down from 6:24 to 5:39 as an average, which is 45-second improvement in just 4 weeks at the same effort, same heart rate, and, which was excellent. I did 2 runs on the Wednesday, and both of these runs were hill runs. The first one, the Wednesday, was in the heat. It was middle of the day. It was about 30 degrees, felt like about 3,000. It was hot. I just went for an hour, but just noticing how much slower I went when the heat sort of kicked in. The first part of that was hills through Burleigh Trail, which is just a beautiful location. It was very shaded though, so that felt pretty good. I decided to attack a few hills this week because this will bring me to the big lesson in a second, but strength is becoming a really important part of this. As I start to build the volume, I'm noticing that I'm feeling stronger, but there's crunching some numbers with some stuff I've got on the screen over here for you. Strength is going to play a really big part in the successful outcome of this experiment for me to go sub 3 hours. Wednesday afternoon I did another sort of 45-minute run with Ross from Arcade Pod through probably even tougher hills, and it was on that run that the conversation sort of talked about strength and has led me to the insight for the week I want to share with you. I had Thursday off. I didn't really mean to have Thursday off, but just with little man and things and family and all the things that happen to every single person, life gets in the way sometimes. Had the best intentions to run in the afternoon, but just didn't get there. So that's going to happen some days. So I don't stress about that sort of stuff too much. Use it as a bit of a recovery day. Get done what you need to do. Stress is not a good thing when you're trying to build an aerobic system because stress leads to higher levels of cortisol, and cortisol kills fat burning. And to build an aerobic system, you need a really productive fat burning system. That's what you're trying to build. So I don't stress about stuff like that. Just get on with it the next day and just and continue on. So Friday was just an easy hour. Saturday ran with Arcade Pod again through some trails and stuff. So again, sort of attacked some hills, which we'll talk about in a second. I did a nice 15k, sort of hour and a half or so through the hills. Sunday, this was really interesting, and this is purposely ran dead flat along the marathon course that the Gold Coast Marathon will be held on, and just literally went from Burleigh up to Surfers Paradise for about an hour and then turned and come back an hour. What was really interesting was 5 weeks ago I was running pretty much according to my heart rate. My pace was dictating close to a 5-hour marathon. On Sunday we ran 2 hours and went through the half marathon distance in 1 hour 59. So anyone looking to run sub 2 hour half marathon, this is like the perfect program for you, where it's easy, you'll adapt over time. And I've managed to, and obviously I can run that sort of speed and have ran many times, but it's not where my body was at fitness wise or anything 5 weeks ago. So it has come down quite considerably just in that 5 week time, and brought me back down, almost a minute per kilometre. Starting to see 5-minute 20s pop up now. Even though my MAF test on Monday was sort of a 5-minute 39 as an average, I'm starting to see a lot more kilometres in the 5:20s and low 5:20s now. So I expect, I'm hoping that in a few weeks time, that's where it's going to sort of be sitting, which would be fantastic. So all in all, 7 hours 20 this week. Did a total of just shy of 73 kilometres. So it was a really good week kilometre wise, given that I actually ran quite a lot in the hills, because for 7.5 hours I would have expected to go probably high 70s, close to 80 kilometres if that was all done on the flat. Hills obviously slows you down. So let's talk about this big lesson from the week. When I was running with Ross on Wednesday, we just got chatting about hills, as you do. Try not to talk uphill, can't breathe. But on the downhills, I was saying, I get it, but what's the importance of hills? And he summed it up so beautifully when he said it is all about drive and strength. And the more I thought about that and the more we talked about it, a lot of running comes down to glute strength. It's the most dominant, important muscle in running is your glutes, your ass. So having a really strong glute, strong ass, really does form the key to what we're trying to do. So no matter how flat the marathon course, hills are still so critical, and Ross really drove this home with me during the week, is just how critical hills are to running, no matter what kind of marathon you want to run. And it is because of that ability for your glute to be able to propel you forward or up a hill that glute does its strength work. So what got me thinking is okay, and I had to go back to high school for a minute and do some numbers and calculate a few things, and I'll post all this online, but this is what got me really thinking is when you run at a cadence of 180 steps per minute, which is kind of like the ideal, if you like. If I'm running 4-minute kilometers, 4 minutes at 180 steps per minute is 180, 360 is 720 steps a minute. So I'm thinking, okay, 1,000 meters in a kilometer, 720 steps. How long does my stride have to be? And this got me really thinking. So what I've done is on the screen behind me here, I've actually put together a spreadsheet, and I'm not Mr. Super Analytical, so I had to really work hard to put this together. But what I've basically done is chart what your stride length would have to be if you're running at 170 cadence, 175, 180, 185 and 190 cadence. And I can tell you that there is a massive difference in stride length when you slow your cadence down. And on I can't remember which morning it was, I think Saturday morning, I was actually about 5 minutes late and the pod had actually taken off. Ross spotted me pulling into the car park, and I actually had to get out of the car, and we kind of picked up the pace and did I'll call it like a 2K tempo, where we sat on sort of 4:15s, 4:30 per kilometer. And it actually felt super comfortable for me, which was number one, awesome. My heart rate was about 153, so it's well down from this aerobic base building, which was super exciting. Then I slowed off and did the rest at heart rate, but straight away I could feel that power in the glute and the stride length, even from just doing those hills a few days before. So all in all this week, I actually did about 3 hill sessions, and we did a interview which we'll make available soon, which is with David Coombs, ultra runner, and Ross, and we talked about strength. And one of the key drills in starting out early in a program like this is just doing little 50-meter sprints uphill, but flat out, top end sort of speed, power, to try and really build that strength in the most specific way, which is running. And there's obviously lots of exercises you can do to build your glute strength. I think lunges and bridges, in my opinion, are probably the 2 best. We'll make a quick video on those. But I'm going to put a big focus into this and post up some of the numbers. Just quickly, I'll give you this so that it makes a little bit of sense. But at 170 cadence, and let's just work off doing a sub 3 hour marathon so you get the gist, but we're going to say we work off a 4:10 pace, which is 250 seconds per kilometer, so it's kind of then easy to calculate. At a cadence of 170, your stride has to be 1.41 meters, and over the course of a marathon you would take 29,892 steps. So that's a hell of a lot, 30,000 steps just about. But 1.41 meters is a long stride, and doing that you're going to get a lot of muscle fatigue around the hips and glute and hip flexors and stuff, because that's just so far to step. Now if you're really tall, obviously that can be an advantage, but I'm only like 1.77 meters. I'm not tall. I can hold a reasonably good cadence, but here's where it changes. Step up to 180 cadence, same speed, but 10 extra steps per kilometer, and your stride length can be a little bit shorter. And how much shorter would you think? Well, it comes down from 1.41 to 1.33, which is 8 centimeters. Doesn't seem like much. I mean, you're talking maybe this much, but 8 centimeters per stride, when you have to do that 30,000 times over the course of a marathon, really adds up in terms of fatigue. But that gives you in a marathon 31,650 steps. Ain't all I know, but that's an extra 2,000 steps in a marathon and a much shorter stride length. To take it a little bit more extreme, if I was sitting on 190 cadence, which is, by the way, pretty typical. If you pull your shoes off and run barefoot on a concrete footpath, you'll almost instantly step up to 190 cadence just to land a lot softer on your feet. So if ever you get a little hot spot blister and you've only got a K to go, rip your shoes off and just try softly barefoot running if it's a nice smooth surface, or even on the sandy beach, and you'll find you probably slip into 190 cadence. 190 cadence gives me a stride length of 1.26 m, which is really interesting. And you would do 33,500 steps. So that's like another 4,500 steps per marathon, which really brings down from 1.41 m back to 1.26 m in stride length. So talk about the importance of cadence in terms of injury prevention and all that sort of stuff, but just the difference it makes to stride length and fatigue factor around someone that may be shorter or doesn't have the flexibility or the strength across a range of motion. This becomes a really, really interesting thing to look at. Good way to test it obviously is across some short tempos, and the reason this all sort of come together in my mind is after the conversation with Ross on the Wednesday, and then Ross running with me to chase down the pod on the Saturday morning, that 4-minute 30 kilometre that we did, my stride was 1.21 m, so it was just short of 190 cadence that might be required for a 4-minute 10 average across a marathon to go sub 3 hours. So that's kind of where my head's thinking. I hope you enjoyed this little weekly update, but have a good think about your own cadence, have a good think about your own stride length, and let's all strengthen up our asses. I'll see you next week on the sub 3 hour marathon experiment. Cheers.